Hello, welcome back to another Swans Cast match preview. Of course, tomorrow is the return of the championship. Well, actually, tonight, I think, as we're recording this, there's a game on. I haven't seen the actual live score, but Sheffield United Leeds are playing right now. And tomorrow, Swansea will be making a long trip up to Blackburn. And I've got Mark here to join me for this one. Mark from Blackburn Podcast. If you'd like to let everyone know where we can find your stuff, I've forgot the name. I'm not going to lie to you because I know you've changed from the last season when we spoke. So
We have, yeah. So last season it was Rovers chat, which Dan used to, he was his baby. He brought it from being a baby, and it grew really popular. But we've changed over. It's myself and Mike have taken the reins, so we decided to rebrand it, and it's the Blackburn End podcast.
yeah, sorry
All
about that. My mind went
all
blank straight
Blackburn.
away because
All right.
yeah, I know the change that happened this season, but hopefully it's going well for you and you've got everyone to transfer over from your last from the last
Yeah.
podcast you were in. So yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So thanks for joining me this evening. We'll get chatting
No problem.
about the game, but before I start there, I just want to recap last season and just ask, kind of in line with where you thought you would be last year compared to where you
Hmm.
finished. How did the season go for you?
Yes, you probably have to go back to the year before. So we had Yondal Thomason for 2 seasons. Obviously, he came in after Tony Mowbray, loads of hype around it, played some really good football, some of the best football we've seen at Rovers for a long time, quite attacking football. And that then were rolled into the summer, and we missed out on the playoffs by goal difference, really. And I felt personally we were a big goal scorer away from getting in the playoffs, maybe one or two others for depth, but other than that, we weren't missing a great deal. That didn't arrive, and he was very, very vocal in the summer about his disappointment about the signings. There was an embargo in India on the funds coming over to the club, so we couldn't actually buy anybody. The Indian government were tying funds up and things like that. So we went into the season, and although we'd only just missed out on the playoffs and we kept most of the team together and we have brought a couple of players in, nobody exciting, I suppose. The season should have felt really promising and actually felt a bit flat. We went into the start of the season though and carried the form on from the previous year. We started really well, and then the wheels just came off. Thomason was continually whinging about not having the funds, not having the players, not getting the support he needed. And as it's transpired since, he fell out with a lot of players. One of them being our captain, Lewis Travis, who isn't a world beater. We all love Lewis Travis. You know, he is what he is. He's a bit of a wind up merchant. But he was a big player in the dressing room, and rumours abound that certain things happened. And off he went on loan to Ipswich, and he's one of our more experienced players. And Thomason just carried on bemoaning the lack of experience. So yeah, we started the season hoping for loads, but I'll be honest, by the end it was just a case of let's just stay in this league, box that season off, and forget about it.
Did
Yeah,
you
it
did you
was
think you were at
it,
risk of going down at all?
Under Thomason at that stage, yes, because the wheels had well and truly come off. It was a case of I think the players had stopped believing in what they were doing, and when that happened, it's a slippery slope. We went away. There was two games in particular. We went to Southampton and we went to West Brom, and we started instead of playing football with a purpose and playing short passes but going forward, we were just passing it around and almost literally passing the book. And we went 1-0 down, 2-0 down quite quickly and carried on, and you could see the players have lost confidence. And instead of changing things, Thomason just sat on the bench and at the end of the game said, "Well, what do you expect? I've not got the players I need." So yeah, it wasn't going well.
Obviously, this season you've lost Schmodix.
Yeah,
I'm just curious. Do you think if he had gone sooner, maybe January, do you think that would have
mm,
been a difference maker in where you ended up?
100%. So Sammy Smodics had a season of it, the season of his life.
Yeah,
I think he's better than some people realise. However, he has got certain limitations at the same time. You know, yes, I don't think he would have scored another 33 goals this season. I think he'd have got 15, 20. But what he and us learned how to get the best out of Sammy Smodics as well. So playing on the shoulder, actually. But if he was playing in the number 10 role, yes, he could press, and that was an element of his game. Actually, Sammy Smodics was just really good at timing his runs, at running beyond the striker. But then as the season wore on, we started to play him as a number 9 at times and allowing him, almost a false 9, I suppose, but allowing him to play on the shoulder and
Yeah.
just not to do any of the defensive work. And he's such a clinical finisher once he gets in that position. I mean, we've seen it against Man City in the Premier League. But Ipswich are having a shocker because they're playing him on the left-hand side. We tried to do the same because actually in terms of build-up play, he's not the best. So playing him on the left, you can kind of let that go a bit more. But he just doesn't get in the game at all. We tried it numerous times. When you play him on that left-hand side, he does nothing. So, yeah, we tried to warn them, but yeah, he's not turning into a bad player overnight. And it's not that I don't think he would do it in the Premier League. I just think you've got to play. If you play him how we did, you probably will get 10 goals from him in the Premier League.
But I mean, if you've got a player who scored that many goals in the Championship last year, surely you want to put them in that position where they got that result. Doesn't really make sense to spend the money and then square pegs in round holes, really.
It doesn't, and it's one of them where it's a bit naive if you've signed him and you don't know that, because he came to us and everybody talks about him not having a good record before he came to Blackburn. But actually, when Rovers unpicked it, and there's been interviews where the director of football at the time talked about this, and actually when they bought Smodics, what they looked at was his record when he plays in the number 10 role. And his record at Peterborough in the number 10 role, I think he played there for something like the last 10 games of their season and got 7 goals, I think it was. And then whenever he played there for Rovers, he played the season before. Again, he was in and out of the team, the left sometimes, the right. Didn't do it. The moment he was in the number 10 role, there was goals from him quite consistently. Went into the season after and he played there all the time until Eustace put him as a number 9 on some occasions when he wanted more men behind the ball, and he'd still score. So it's very naive, to be honest, if you recruit him and you don't know that, because it's not hidden. It's not a secret. It's not hidden. So
no, and you'd imagine. Well, a lot of the clubs use a lot of data-driven recruitment these days as well, so it's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
But there we go. Moving on to this season, he's not here anymore, of course, but you've actually had a decent start, I would say. And I do believe that perhaps goes against what the bookies had you down for the beginning of the season. So yeah, do you want to talk about the start of this season?
Yeah, so I think obviously lots of people were tipping Blackburn to go down. I think they've probably done that on the basis that we stayed up on the last game of the season and we've lost Smodics and not looked beyond that. I think the truth lies somewhere very much in the middle. We've been, the previous 2 seasons, we've missed out on the playoffs by, although we were never really threatening them, as daft as it sounds, we were very, very close to them as the season ended up. And that's probably more akin to where we are, I think. I think we are a top half team, but we are probably not threatening the playoffs either. And yes, Smodics is gone, but we've needed to spread the goals out anyway, because last season he got 33 goals for us, but the nearest was Arne Sigurdsson, and he got about 5, I think maybe 7 in all comps, and it wasn't many. And beyond that, we had Sam Gallagher, who was our main striker, really, and he got 3 goals. So it was pitiful. So going into this season, we knew we needed to do that. But I'll be honest, we didn't know what to expect. So Eustace came in with not much of the season left. And when he did come in, we were playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday immediately. So we had no time to work on anything. So in terms of his style of play, you couldn't really judge it. But it was pretty grim. It was very much going into every single game, even at home to Sheffield Wednesday, where a draw, because of the position of the 2 teams, would have kept us safe. And we contrived to manage to get absolutely battered in that game, because he just had this approach of do not lose. And that negative approach, once you concede, is a problem.
Yeah, you've done then.
So, yeah. So going into this season, our worry, I suppose, was that we'd carry on trying not to lose every game. We haven't. We've actually played some decent football. Don't get me wrong, he's very much around. If we keep a clean sheet, we've got a better chance of winning.
Yeah,
fair enough. But equally, he's playing on the front foot. He adapts to different teams, though. So we do have a style of play in terms of, we're quite difficult to break down, but he does adapt to different teams. So we've seen him set up and tweak personnel depending on who we're playing. So quite often, though, that means that what we will do is, if a team likes to dominate the ball, rather than trying to fight with them to do that, we will conserve our energy. We'll not just sit in 2 banks of four, really, but we'll go, do you know what? You have the ball. And then we will wait and we'll set traps and we'll know what we're doing the moment we win the ball. So far, I've been quietly impressed with him.
It's quite interesting to hear that because John Eustace was a name linked to the Swans job on the last two occasions quite heavily.
Mm.
I believe at one point it was the person the club wanted. Actually, I believe it might have been when we got Michael Duff that we wanted him. Or it might have even been
Okay.
as far back as Russell Martin when we also wanted him, but it never materialised for whatever reason. One of the times he was at QPR and apparently didn't want to move house or whatever. Who knows the actual ins and outs? He didn't want to move his family, I think was the story that was given. But we would have been signing him or bringing him in on the basis of playing a passing brand of football as we are doing now under Luke Williams. So I kind of would have expected to see that with you guys, but you're saying he adjusts quite a lot. So I guess my next question would be, how is he going to adjust to a team that is going to dominate the ball? I know you kind of alluded to it a little bit just now, but is there anything you would expect to see? Because that is kind of how we're going to look to operate, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think in his early days at Kidderminster, he was. I mean, they had a ludicrous nickname of the Barcelona of the non-league. He went to Birmingham, and I think he just recognises. I think he's pragmatic in the sense of if his team are not better than the opposition, then he adjusts his team accordingly. So if we go away to Leeds, we'll not go. Whereas under Thomason we did. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll still play the way we're going to play anyway. He'll adjust. So I think against you guys, you like the ball, so he will let you have it. What he tends to do is in those situations, he's playing quite a mid block, as the new terminology will be. Basically, he won't press you until you get into the halfway line. But when we do press, we press with real intensity and try and win the ball back. And there's a very clear plan of what they're doing, which I really like. You can tell everything's worked really hard on the training ground. So it's usually our number 10 that's the trigger press. So he will decide when we're pressing. He will go to press. Two or three will go around. We'll try and win the ball. And then there's a clear plan of where they're passing. So in terms of coaching-wise, he obviously puts a lot of work in. And the players are really buying into it.
Yeah.
So I think you'll have a lot of the ball. But the moment that you start to come into an area that we feel uncomfortable with you having the ball, we'll be all over you.
Interesting. I am quite curious to see how this one pans out then. I feel a bit better that you're saying the press is only in the midfield part of the pitch rather than from the top, because I do have bad memories of heavy pressing against the goalkeepers, the centre-backs, and that causing us troubles. Not necessarily recently, but with this style of football historically, that tends to cause issue. But maybe it will cause issue in the middle as well, because generally speaking, a lot of our chances we do concede anyway are just when we lose the ball in general. Doesn't matter where, because we're always set up a certain way to keep the ball. When you lose it in that setup, there's massive gaps, and if you can efficiently run into them, play through them, that's when your chances will come.
Yeah. And I think one of the problems that we had when we played a very high pressing game and a high tempo game under Thomason was we would be all over teams for 10 minutes. It would be absolutely running amok. If you didn't score, you've got a problem. And by the 60th minute, we were shot. So actually what we're finding now is going later into the game, we've got options off the bench, but also we've got more energy. So, yeah, I think it suits the championship better because you play in so many games.
I do think on that point you'll probably benefit in this game because we tend to struggle at second halves and don't have the quality off the bench, as I just talked to you about in your video. And I am trying to work out if fitness is part of an issue as well when you're trying to pass the ball around, move the other team around for so long with no reward. I don't know how much that affects you tiredness wise, and if that's got an impact on where we are at the moment as well. But that's something for us to work out anyway. Looking at your recent results then, a defeat against Coventry and a defeat against Plymouth. So how do you see going into this game? Do you feel you could sort of bounce back, and even if it's a point, just kind of not get another defeat? Or is this one you're really targeting for a win? What do you really expect out of it?
Yeah, so obviously we were unbeaten before that, and we've won every game at home so far. I think we all knew that obviously at some point you're going to lose. What surprised us was the manner of the defeats. I think Eustace likes to play an unchanged team if they're playing well. The problem with that was we had Danny Bath come into the team, for example, who's not really played before that. He's played 3 games in a row. He's then been asked to go Saturday, Tuesday, and it was too many. And they look very leggy. That was as much as I've been saying they've had energy. When he's then tried to play the same team, they've looked leggy. So the Plymouth game, I think the Coventry game, if I take that first, was probably 1 game too many for too many of our key players. We went into the Saturday game against Plymouth and we were just poor, if I'm being honest. It was one of them games in the Championship where you just go, where's that come from? But then we got to the 60th minute. We changed 4 of the players, went more attacking, and undeservedly equalised. And actually, at that point, I thought we're going to go on to win this. And unlike Eustace teams, we left the back door open and they go and score. So this game, in answer to your question, is a massive game for us because, yeah, the pundits were tipping us to go down. I don't think that's the case. Equally, we've been in the playoffs, in and around the playoffs, so before the 2 games. I don't think that's the case either. But this game will tell us where we're going to be, whether we've any chance of, challenging the playoffs at all. I don't personally think we will anyway. But yeah, we've got to bounce back because we've had a good start and then we've had 2 really poor performances. So we need to see whether that was a blip or whether actually the opening start to the season was a bit more of a fluke than it looks.
Yeah. I think we're kind of in a similar boat, really, looking at our recent results as well, where the performances that we've had have kind of been more in line with the results now, rather than a couple of wins earlier on and getting a good league position. It's stabilising a bit, and it's like, okay, are we going to stem the tide here, get another win and continue ticking over like that, or is it going to continue to stabilise in the other direction? Who knows? And also, I think this is a good time to say we also, in our predictions, had you down there, unfortunately, but I do think we got lost, or personally I got lost in the whole narrative of your funds being a bit locked away, and if you lost a player like Schmodix, I thought that might have a big impact if you couldn't replace. But to be fair, I didn't take enough acknowledgement out of who your manager was, considering how much we were pursuing him. And how good he did at the beginning of last season. Obviously, even that went well when he disappeared, didn't it? So, we immediately regretted it after the first couple of games of the season. So we'll see how it pans out, I guess. But we're definitely expecting egg on our face for that one. But I'm sure a lot of people are as well. Okay, last couple of questions then. Schmodix is gone. So who is the new key player for Swansea fans to be looking at from Blackburn that's going to do some damage?
Yeah, I think what we've actually done now is we've spread the goals around a little bit more. The team hasn't quite settled yet. So we've brought in Todd Cantwell, who hasn't had a pre-season. He's got loads of talent, but I think we've seen why Todd Cantwell was rated as 40 million at one stage, and we've also seen why Todd Cantwell's not made it in the Premier League. We've seen both sides of him so far. When he's on form, so we played QPR, they went down to 10 men, and he had the freedom of Ewood. We just gave him a free roll, and he was absolutely lethal. When we are not as much in control of the ball, he's been very quiet. But he's had 2 more weeks on the training ground, so I think Todd Cantwell's one that we are expecting now to cement a place in the team and to show us the creativity and the player he can be. So I would say he's one. I think the other one overriding to keep an eye out for the season is probably Yuki Ohashi. So he's come from the J League. However, he's just been called up to the Japan squad, so he wasn't actually in the squad on Tuesday, but he's probably not flown back till Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a lot of travelling, isn't there? Yeah,
I'd be very doubtful. I mean, he may well be on the bench at weekend, but I don't think you'll see much of him. I hope we do. He's looks really good off the bench in particular. But I think one of the problems he's going to have is he's never played more than a full season in Japan. But that's around 22 games. They finished their season before the start of ours. So he's had a full season, rolled straight into the Championship, which, as we know, is grueling anyway. So I think as we get to Christmas time, he's going to tail off anyway. But he's a good finisher. So I'd expect him to come up with, he could well be our top scorer if he doesn't hit a brick wall physically. Yeah.
There's a couple of names there to keep an eye on. Let me flip the question. Anyone that worries you from our squad?
I think Matt Grimes always worries us because obviously he was at Rovers at one stage, and we just have a habit of letting people score who used to play for us. I know Matt Grimes doesn't score that often, but Yeah, he probably will do it.
He takes up penalties, so if there's one of them, maybe you'll get on the score sheet. But otherwise, not that often. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's pretty much it. So thank you very much for your time. I do like to end on a bit of a non this game related question, a little bit of a novelty thing. But for this half of the season, I'm asking, what is your best ever away day experience?
Ooh, best ever away day experience. Good question. I'm
on the spot all the time. It's difficult to know.
Yeah, I like it. Slight away day, but then I'm gonna go for Manchester United away. Pedersen scored twice.
Oh, Pedersen, that's with us.
Morton Gant Pedersen.
No, not our Pedersen.
Yeah. So it was when we were under Mark Hughes. We played some good football. I think that Mark Hughes team really typified Blackburn Rovers and what Rovers fans like. There's a bit of ability there, but equally, if you want to mix it up, we'll mix it up. We went to Old Trafford, riding high, and beat them 2-1. When they were the good old Man United, they had all Fergie's tricks were there, and you had Scholes, you had Ferdinand. But yeah, it was just a great time to be a Rovers fan, because obviously we'd had the years under Kenny Dalglish, and then this felt, I suppose, like actually we could stay here punching above our weight in the Premier League, because it wasn't reliant on the money anymore. It was just being a really well-run club, picking out bargains. We had Benny McCarthy, not at that time, but later on we had Benny McCarthy at Santa Cruz. We had Craig Bellamy at that time, where you were picking people up and you knew you probably wouldn't keep them. You'd sell them for a lot of money and then you'd pick somebody else up. But yeah, it's just a great time to be a Rovers fan, really. And I think that's something that we hope to get back to at some stage. I don't think we'll ever get back to winning the Premier League, but I think punching above your weight in the Premier League and having a team that represents you as fans is something that everybody wants. And that was probably the time that we had that, really. So yeah, I'll go with that one. That's the one that stands out.
No, that's fair enough, and I can completely relate, because I think we've had a similar sort of experience, probably a little bit more recently than that. But not I say more recently, it's knocking on 10 years now since we were in that situation in the Premier League where we were actually punching above our weight. We had a couple of years not so much punching above, but the likes of Michu and stuff perhaps is the same equivalent of picking up the bargains that fly in. And as much as we never really sold him on for a massive profit because of his injury issues afterwards, but he would be the equivalent of the name, that everyone remembers, and the dream that you want to return to, I guess. But who knows when that will come. I'm sure everyone will have their turn again at some point. So
yeah, absolutely.
But there we go. Thank you very much, Mark. If you can remind everyone where we can find the Blackburn End and your content and what you're putting out there.
Yeah, of course you can. We're on all social media. YouTube's the main one, I suppose. We do put our podcast out on via Acast on all the platforms, Spotify and things. I don't expect any Swansea fans to go and look at that, but we will put a match reaction out. So if you do make the journey, you want to watch any of our feedback, Mike usually does a match reaction. Do you know what? I'm probably biased, but I do think he's really measured, so he's generally quite honest. So if you want an actual viewpoint of a Rovers fan, how they saw the game, Mike usually puts that out quite quickly after the game, so that'll be on YouTube, just the Blackburn End podcast. It usually comes up with any combination of those words, really, usually.
Yeah, I'll have a link to the channel in the description to this anyway, so if you want to go and check that out, go for it. I'm sure I like to sometimes listen to how, usually when you win, isn't it? When you've done a good performance, you want to hear how the other team speaks about your team, how you played. And if you get a drop in, you probably don't want to hear it, but go check it out anyway. But thank you very much, Mark. I'm sure I'll chat to you later on in the season. But good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully after we manage to not lose and get a win, hopefully on the weekend. So I'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, look forward to it. Thank you, Luke.